Why did Asian American voters shift right in this recent election? Now that the election is over, Donald Trump has won. There's a lot more data and exit poll data that kind of tells you the answers. So, I know that we're not a political channel, but of course this has to do with Asian Americans, so we got to talk about it. I'm not Candace Owens, not David Pakman, but my brother David, who is in Thailand right now, did actually make a video a couple days ago called "Did Asians Really Support Trump?" That video is a little bit different than this video, but either way, I'm breaking down the reasons why Asian Americans shifted right. And these are not the reasons I came up with. These are actually from multiple articles that have analyzed the exit poll data and talked to different people. So, Real Clear Politics, which I did check. By the way, I checked the all sides and the biases. It's a very centrist news source, okay? And then also LA Times had an opinion article that just went viral right now called "What Did the Asian American Vote Tell Us This Year?" And there's just some data, and we're going to go over it. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about it. I got a few takeaways, so please hit that like button. Check out other episodes of the Hot Pot Boys, as this one is a solo one. It's just me. All right, so first off, let's just take a look at this picture right here. Asian majority precincts shifted right in 2024. As you can see in Chicago, Dallas, New York, Fort Bend County, Texas. Obviously, a lot of Asians in Texas as well. The shift was pretty big compared to 2020. I mean, guys, it's clear. Asians shifted right. It doesn't mean that most Asians voted Republican. Not most, but they shifted a lot. And so you can read this. It said nationally in 2020 and 2024, exit polls from the Washington Post show a 9-point shift. Okay, that's what Washington Post showed. But in some states like Nevada and Texas, it wasn't a shift. Asians just straight up went red. And then NBC News exit polls found a 5-point shift relative to 2020. And then even another organization, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, saw a 7-point shift away from Democrats. Now, here's the thing. Exit polls are not a perfect source of data, guys. Of course, polls are important, but they don't tell you everything. Also, these polls were done in English, so maybe that is excluding a lot of non-English native-speaking Asians, which actually a sizable amount of them do vote. They're all adults. And so we're going to go into it. But anyways, let's talk about these 5 reasons why Asians shifted right. And I'll talk about, whether I saw it coming, because we had talked about the election 6-7 months ago. So point number 1 was the economy. With no surprise, because Asians are very economic focus. I mean, Asians, whether they're formally educated Asians or not, Asians all make good money, essentially, or they all work hard, I should say. Asians are heavy in small businesses. They're very enterprising. Obviously, in education, academia, Asians are overrepresented in that, compared to the population in America. So economy makes sense that every Asian is trying to get a good job or create a money-making business of their own, whether they are formally educated or not, right? And because Asians are not a monolith, there are all different types of Asians, by the way. So originally, 6 months ago, when me and David had talked about how Democrats were losing a little ground amongst Asians, and we were talking about what are the main issues, I had said safety probably was number 1 in my ranking, but economy ended up being the number 1 concern. And I would say even in the past 6-7 months, the economy has, gotten worse, and inflation has only gone up. So that was a big issue for a lot of people, especially Asians who are small business owners, and the price of their goods or their groceries went up. So point number 2, second biggest issue was public safety. This is no surprise. I had been saying this for a long time. Safety, safety, safety. I think the crime and chaos issue was something that Asians really cared about. Obviously, Asians are some of the first people to get picked on. We're some of the first civilians to get picked on, and there's a number of reasons for that. We've talked about it on the channel before. I'm not going to get into it. But even the LA Times article noted that a lot of Asians felt that undocumented immigrants threaten safety and resources for the middle class that live paycheck to paycheck. Now, data-wise, and study-wise, there's a lot of studies that came out trying to combat that, and I'm not here to say what is true or not. I'm actually just here to say how people feel, and that's how people felt, is that there's a public safety issue, and that the border issue led to an influx of undocumented immigrants, and Asians, definitely Asian Americans across the board, kind of felt like that threatens, certain aspects of safety. Point number 3, this is what this article describes as the wrong side of brown. I had actually not really heard this term before, but it makes sense because I know the concept. It's basically talking about how South Asians, who are considered brown, brown people, that's the color they get between white, black, brown, and yellow. And some Southeast Asians might be referred as brown, but they don't benefit from the racial equity policies that the Democrats were promising to black and Latino people. So when Democrats were saying black and brown people, they obviously were not referring to South Asians. South Asians, in this case, they get lumped in with Asians, of course. But I'm saying like South Asians, they also get called brown, like how Kamala would always say she's brown. Her mother was brown, but it's true. Kamala never said she was Asian. She just said she was brown. Maybe she said she was Asian. Yeah, no. Anyways, that's besides the fact. Also something called like things like affirmative action, which I gotta say did not actually end up affecting Asian and black students as much, because it kind of like was pinned that way in the media, where like Asian students versus black students are like, oh, underqualified black and Latino students are going to overtake all these spots from Asian students. And actually it turned out to not be as true, but regardless, that's how it felt. Again, guys, whether or not the facts are 100% there or not, this is how people feel. Point number 4, that the article points out is that a lot of Asians who are religious, of different religions, but namely, Catholic and Christian backgrounds, they did oppose the abortion rights and the social and identity issues. Those are not things that they were super concerned with. So obviously, yeah, if they were very religious, then they were more likely to not care about those issues. Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think if you talk to older Asian immigrants in America, socially, like, they're really concerned about the economy and safety. They're like, I think old Asians are like, if the economy is good and people are safe, then the social issues are okay. Then they will just work themselves out. Then what's the big deal? People are living a good life regardless. If the economy is booming and people are safe, can walk out on the street, then don't worry about these social things. That's kind of the vibe. I'm not saying that's exactly what they say, but I'm just saying that that's how it feels, because economy and safety really go hand in hand, and those happen to be the biggest. They're just the biggest issues, okay, to Asians. Point number 5, conservatism grew despite a lot of Asians not calling themselves Republican and MAGA. So this is a point I want to make, and it's not a point I want to make. I mean, it's from the article, but it's from the LA Times article. But what I noticed, and in a way I remind people, is that, yeah, I think that a lot of Asians are conservative by culture and by values, but that doesn't mean they're MAGA. MAGA is like a certain kind of, I guess I don't want to say subsect because it's pretty strong. But it's a certain side of the Republican Party. Like, there's Republicans, there's conservatives, there's Republicans, and then there's MAGA. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but unfortunately, like, to vote for conservative values, you have to vote for the guy who also like inspires, like, which is MAGA. You know what I mean? Who started the MAGA movement, and then some of the MAGA people are kind of crazy. So I think it's unfortunate, but again, this is how it is when you only have a 2-party system. So you get the extremes. Like, even if Asians are just like, hey, I just kind of have like conservative values, and I want a good economy, but I don't really want to vote for people like that. But it's like, that's what you got to vote, because otherwise the other side doesn't embody your values, right? So anyways, I'll reiterate real quick is that, Asians really care about the economy and safety. Those are the biggest issues. And obviously, like, fair admissions in colleges, meritocracy, like, that's what Asians really, really care about. They want to do their business. They want to live their life. They're not trying to cause trouble, but they're also not trying to, a lot of Asian voters are not concerned with all the details, like, if you want to even ask a lot of Asian voters, in my opinion, about like the deep state, they don't really have opinions on that. Or like the wars that are going on overseas, like if it doesn't affect the economy and their safety, it's probably not the biggest issue on their mind. And even though, and obviously for a lot of Chinese Americans or Chinese living in America, obviously like China is the rival and enemy to both sides, left and right. You know, I would say the left preaches more that they're going to have like trying to build good relationships with China, but you know, China is just unfortunately in that situation where it's rivaling America, period. There's really no way else to slice it. But yeah, I mean, I think most Asian Americans, and I guess I can speak on maybe more Chinese Americans, they're not going to vote. They're not going to base their vote for president based on necessarily the relationship with China, right? Because, you know, you still live in America. It's still your life. You're still going to value the economy and your personal, you know, community safety over everything else. So this article at the Real Clear Politics asks the question, is this a permanent shift? And this is what some people said. They said, if the Dems move to the center, Asian Americans stay where they are right now. But if the allegiance to gender ideology and soft on crime remains, then the Asian Americans will move even more right. That was an opinion. Someone else said they think that there is a definite ceiling in Asian American rightward support due to their highly educated demographics and the tendency of highly educated people to vote left. So those are two opposing ideas. I don't know which one is true, but I will say this, that I don't think the Asian vote is permanent anywhere. I just don't think, especially when you're dealing with like Asian immigrants, and obviously in 50 years as more of the Asian immigrants give birth to the next generation of Asian Americans, and there's more Asian Americans who are born and raised here. Who knows if the Asian Americans will still carry on, you know, some, I guess, more conservative Asian values, or they just become Americanized. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a question that's happening right now. But I do think that, I think that I'll be honest that when Trump won, I did see a outflow or a burst of posts on Reddit in different forums with a growing concern for Asian American safety, which is interesting because Asian Americans shifted right, but then also a lot of people blame Trump for what had happened, but then people also say that it could happen under any side. But anyways, basically what I'm saying is that, you know, it's for another video. I'm going to talk about whether Asian Americans or some Asian Americans are scared right now because Trump won. And, you know, there's some reason for it. But anyways, some other interesting poll data that I think is really interesting, but maybe doesn't mean everything, is the CNN exit poll that showed that Asian American men, 37% of Asian American men voted for Trump, and then 42% of Asian American women voted for Trump. But this is just from an exit poll of like 400 people. So there's really not that much. But if I had to theorize about maybe why, you know, I guess like either Asian men lied or more Asian women are intermarried with like, you know, Republicans and like, for example, white people in red states. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe women prefer a strong male leader. I don't know, guys. But it's not a crazy big poll, but I did think that was an interesting point. So again, polls don't mean everything. It was only like about 400 Asian women were polled, 400 Asian men roughly were polled. So again, polls are not everything. But anyways, yeah, it's very clear that, Asians shifted right. So I think that one thing that people got to realize though is like, I think the negative comments about certain groups doesn't define how that group votes. Because like I said, as long as Trump promised a better economy and safety, those things are going to override any comments that he's made that you think led to negative Asian sentiment, right? Or, for example, like when the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe said that comment about Puerto Rico and said Puerto Rico was a floating island of garbage as a joke. It did piss off a lot of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico. And there was some Puerto Ricans in America that were pissed, but you know how Puerto Ricans actually ended up voting in America? They still ended up voting for Trump because at the end of the day, those comments, just like this article, Trump makes gains with some Puerto Ricans this election despite controversial garbage joke. Because the Puerto Rican voter said she thinks the candidate will give her a better life in the future. Like I said, a better economy and more safety means a better life. Those are the things that equal a better life. Like everything else, to most immigrants, are not necessary to a better life. Maybe those are nice things to have socially. I think the social issues, I'm not speaking even for myself. I'm just speaking on how I am pretty sure the immigrant populations feel. You know what I mean? Because just safety and economy. That's all you got to say. Because now there's economic opportunity. That's why you come to America and you feel safe. And safety is huge. So even though there's like comments said by the Trump's camp or Trump himself that people are like, oh, that's like, he shouldn't say that. And they are offensive things for sure. I agree. But it's not going to override someone's feeling if they think that Trump is going to make their life better. That's what I mean. And I think so you got to understand that. And also just because people were immigrants themselves or are kids of immigrants, that doesn't mean that, clearly it doesn't mean that immigrants want all other immigrants in, So it's just not how people feel. And I think that people can be mad at that, but I'm just saying that's what it is. Anyways, guys, so that's my interpretation and analysis of these exit polls, and I get it. This election was very emotional and there's a lot of emotions going on right now. There's, like I said, there's a large portion of Asian Americans who are voicing their concern for their safety. There was even some incidences that happened recently. I think a Vietnamese banh mi shop got vandalized by whom they believe were Trump supporters. So obviously, there's a section of Trump supporters who are very racist and mean, who want to do mean things. Obviously, I'm not saying that's all Trump supporters, obviously, because there's a ton of Asians who are Trump supporters too. But I just think that, yeah, there's definitely a lot of feelings out there and a lot of concern, but we're going to talk more about it if it helps. So guys, let me know if this video was helpful. Again, I don't want to be a political channel all the time, but of course, when it calls for it, we'll bring it up, and we are not afraid to help navigate the conversation. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about all this. Were these reasons fair? Economy, safety, I guess we'll call it the wrong side of brown. Religious Asians. Asians, are they conservative, but maybe they're not super all about the MAGA side, but they have conservative values? You let me know. Because I know Asian families who are split on this. Literally one side was doing left, one side was voting right, and they can't talk about it at the dinner table. So highly polarizing election. Crazy. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below. Hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we out. Peace.